Hi guys, sorry, I am still not immune to the technical difficulties. I had technical difficulties again today, so I'm starting a few minutes late. I'm trying to link the live video to the schedule that I have posted so that you guys can link back to that, and it's just not working for me. So I'm scheduling the live videos and then just going live at the time on my page that I say I'm going to until I can get it figured out. But I will say I'm excited because the last video, I did not like the quality of it. So I got a new webcam that hopefully should make the video and the sound better. So hopefully the quality is better for you guys. So I'm just gonna kind of get set up here. So today I want to talk about the 6 areas of wellness for health and happiness. And basically, these are areas of life and areas of living that research tells us if we have a good balance between all of these areas, that we lead healthier, happier lives. And this is especially important as we're aging. So I want to go over these because I think these provide a really nice framework for people, not only for people with chronic illness, but just everyone in general. These can be ways that you check in with yourself and kind of see if there's any areas that maybe you're not experiencing balance in, and that can really help you target goals and interventions and figuring out really where you need support. And so I'm going to go over each of the areas so you can become familiar with them, what they look like, how they affect your life, and what they look like if you're living in balance in that area. And then I'm also going to add the complexity of how it affects us if we have a chronic illness, because I don't know if you've noticed this, but if you have a chronic illness, it really can throw a lot of these areas out of balance. And so I want to point out here areas where we might experience distress and maybe validate that for you and help you have a framework for making sense of it. So, so the first dimension or area or field of wellness is, let me see here. Go back up to the top of my notes. I have to have notes because I get brain fog and then I forget where I'm at. So that way you guys don't get crazed by all my brain fog moments. So the first area is intellectual and mental health. I consider mental health and intellectual health kind of similar. So in this area of our life, we focus on having creative and stimulating mental activities. This includes expanding our knowledge and skills, learning new things, sharing that knowledge and skills with others, and being able to be in that expert or teaching position. This also includes using resources in the community and really just appreciating and focusing on our intellectual growth and stimulation. This is an important area for us, and this also includes stuff like problem solving, creativity, learning, pursuing any personal interests you might have, like learning a new language or gardening or anything like that. But it also includes learning about any issues that just might be important to you and your values, and also challenging yourself intellectually or creatively. So essentially in this area, it focuses on challenging our minds and also learning how to identify any potential problems we might have and have access to and knowledge of potential solutions. So in this area, when we have a chronic illness, a lot of times it gets thrown off because a lot of chronic illnesses have cognitive components to it that limit your ability to perform intellectually or to do mental tasks. And this really can just make us feel like we're not getting our needs met in this area. We're not being stimulated or having the potential and ability to learn new things, to have information stick and feel confident in that. and that, having a chronic illness that affects this area can really just feel like you're being knocked back. So if that's something you experience, then this is an area you might want to work on and focus on and maybe set some goals for. The second area is emotional health. This is an important area, of course, in my area of focus, but when you have a chronic illness, this comes up a lot. So our emotional health focuses on our awareness and acceptance of our feelings. So we want to focus on nurturing and building a positive outlook on life. And of course, when you get a chronic illness, it challenges our outlook on life and our future sometimes. So this area is where we learn to manage our feelings. We have what's called emotional regulation, and also our behaviors that are influenced by our feelings. In this area of health, we also want to recognize and know our limitations, which of course those increase sometimes when you have a chronic illness, but we also want to develop independence and learning how to cope with stress effectively. So this is another area where stress management comes in and can help. We want to express our feelings freely and feel like we can do that. And sometimes when we have a chronic illness, it can be really hard if the people around you really have a tough time understanding what you're going through. And we also want to make sure that we're able to make personal choices and decisions that are a good fit for us, take responsibility for our actions, and also balance that with taking on challenges and risks that are healthy, and building relationships with others that have a foundation of trust and respect and commitment. So that is all involved in our emotional health. So if our emotional health is good, we're able to do all those things effectively, balance them, and feel confident about them. If this is an area where you're struggling, then some of those might feel difficult for you right now, and that's okay. I think, again, having a chronic illness is going to affect and maybe distort a lot of these areas. And one of the things that I like to do in my practice is to go through these with people and identify areas that their illness has affected them and really work on building that back up and maybe just conceptualizing it in a different way. Because when we have a chronic illness, it's not that these things are impossible to have balance with anymore. We just might have to think outside of the box about how that is possible. So that was emotional health. The next is physical health. Of course, physical health is the number one thing that is affected when we have a chronic illness, but this area focuses mostly on our basic needs. So our need for regular physical activity and having a good knowledge and practice of getting proper nutrition through diet. And so in this area, we see good balance as being having a combination of good exercise habits and healthy eating habits. This also includes, on the physical side of things, being able to build strength, flexibility, and endurance. Also includes medical self-care and having good medical self-care practices, addressing your self-care, medical, physical needs appropriately. And essentially in this area, we're taking personal responsibility and playing an active role in managing our illness and medical needs, but also addressing those basic needs we have for nutrition and exercise. But another thing I like to throw in here is something that can come up when we have a chronic illness, is that sometimes we have negative experiences in the healthcare field that cause us to not trust our body anymore. Maybe a doctor has said something like it's all in your head, or there's nothing wrong with you, and you feel like there is something functionally wrong. That can really shift your understanding and relationship with your body and what it's telling you, and maybe not have as good of a relationship with it. So in the area of physical health, we really want to nurture having a deeper understanding and a healthy relationship with your body, listening to the warning signs of anything that might come up, and being able to address any needs that it has. So when we do this, this area is really important because when we address these things, it can have really positive psychological benefits. One of them is that it can enhance our self-esteem and overall confidence. It can help us feel like we have a greater sense of self-control over what's happening. We call this an internal locus of control, but it also lets us have a greater sense of determination and just direction in our lives, where we're at, where we're going, and how we're going to get there. So that area is really important. So the next area of health is social health. So in this area, it really is less about, what we typically think of as social, like having friends and things like that. This area really wants us to build a sense of community and also be connected with not only the people in that community, but our environment as a whole. So this could also include nature. It could include institutions in our community, but also society at large, and having a greater understanding of not only how we impact society, but how society impacts us and all the environments in which we have that interconnected relationship. So in this area, we want to feel like we have balance in our ability to preserve nature and the balance in our society that is connected to that, but also enhancing and nurturing our personal relationships, which includes family and friendships, but also just building a better overall community. So we want to live in harmony with the people around us and the environment in which we live and not have conflict with them. Sometimes our sense of social health can be disrupted when we have a chronic illness because maybe the people around you may not believe what you're going through in terms of your symptoms. Sometimes they just outright don't believe you. Sometimes they view you as not responding to it well. Maybe they might have a certain judgment about what that's supposed to look like. And maybe you just feel like you're in conflict with your environment because you've had a negative experience with the healthcare system or other institutions in your community. So this is an area where that can affect our social health. The next area is occupational, and I added recreational health because some of us can't work when we have a chronic illness. So this is something that I like to change the definition a little bit because I feel like it's not as inclusive as people it's not as inclusive of people with disabilities who don't work. So in this area, our occupation usually focuses on the satisfaction and enrichment that we get from work. And I would like to expand this to just be any activity that we do that challenges us, allows us to use our skills and things that are important to us, talents, gifts, anything that we enjoy doing. But being able to do that and participate in that in a way that's meaningful and rewarding for us. So in this area, we always want to make sure that these activities fit with our values and beliefs. And I think the bigger aspect to this area of health and wellness is that we have some sort of meaningful activities that we can do that lets us use the skills we have that are important to us to use, and to be involved in the community in some way and feel like we're an asset to that community. A lot of times when you have a chronic illness, a disability, essentially, we are kind of taught that if you're not working, then you don't fit the definition of being a successful member of society. But there are so many other things that we can do and ways that we can contribute, even if we can't work. Society may not necessarily make it easy for us, but there are definitely a lot of things we can do. And so I like exploring this area individually for each client that I have, because I think it looks different to all of us because our abilities are limited in different ways and our illness presents in different ways. And so I think this is an important area to explore for people with chronic illness. And then the last area is spiritual And I also included environmental health in this one because I think for a lot of people, they can be connected spiritually to the environment in different ways. But this area is really where we search for meaning and purpose in life. And this helps us create meaning out of life. So that's why this is an important area of wellness. What this looks like is different for everybody, but essentially we're looking to develop a harmony or balance between our feelings and emotions that we experience and all the tough stuff that comes up in life, and feeling like our actions are really consistent with our beliefs and values, and that overall determines our worldview and how we make sense of everything. So we focus in this area around creating meaning out of life for ourselves, learning how to be tolerant of the beliefs of others, even if we don't agree with them and they don't fit ours, and also finding ways to live each and every day that are consistent with that worldview and those values and beliefs. And also some things that are important are recognizing that we can have feelings that we consider to be uncomfortable, like disappointment or despair or sadness or frustration, and that these are just as important experiences as the positive feelings, the hopeful feelings, the motivation, the joy, all of that. All of these things help us create meaning out of life, and they're all equally important. So in this area, sometimes our worldview, our values and beliefs can be shifted by big experiences like having a chronic illness. And I think it's important to know that while you might have a shift in identity, you might be experiencing some grief and loss around not being able to do certain things you used to be able to do, that while you may have had a different worldview or spiritual view in the past, you can create meaning still out of this experience of having a chronic illness and find ways to integrate it into your life in a way that makes sense to you and still allows you to have, confidence in that meaning and that worldview that you have. So this is another thing that we address in therapy or in coaching, depending on which area fits better for you. So those are the 6 areas of wellness. And essentially, the reason that I wanted to do this talk is because I think it's good to kind of compartmentalize and look through every area and maybe try to recognize or reflect on how this experience has affected each of those areas, or even other things that you might have going on in life and how those are affecting these areas. And that can give you a great framework for looking for support and creating a plan for yourself, looking in the community for things to help you build on those areas of health that you might want to work on. So maybe you find one of these areas needs the most support for you. That might be a great area for you to look for a professional to work with in. So know that all of these areas, when they're in sync and they're in balance as much as possible, or just that you feel confident in those areas for yourself, this is going to help you feel more confident. It's going to help you feel happier, and you're also going to be healthier as a holistic person, from a holistic perspective, I guess you could say. So essentially, this looks like we're contributing to our community, and we feel like we can count on our community to contribute to our needs. If something comes up, we feel like we're in balance with our living spaces, our social networks. We have activities that we can do that we find joy in, that help us feel like we're contributing and using our skills and knowledge or talents in some way, that we live in a way that's consistent with our values and our belief systems. We have healthy habits that help us meet our own personal needs, and we have a trust in our body and a method for assessing that and knowing if something is off and we need support. It helps us have a sense of direction, have stimulation intellectually, and be able to manage our feelings and anything that comes up. So I think that pretty much sums it up. As you're reflecting on this, I encourage you to comment in the thread for this and let me know, any thoughts you're having. If there's any areas that you feel like you need more support in. But I want to also share in the comments or in the description for this live, I included a free presentation that I gave at a conference earlier this year about ways that stress management is good for your health. And so I think that when you think about stress management and having a stress management program, which is something I constantly talk about, it addresses all of these areas because stress management is life management, right? And also disease management. They all integrate and play together. So if you would like to watch that presentation, it's free. You just have to sign up and log into my classroom on my Teachable site, and there's a link in the description to check that out. It also gives a description of my stress management course. So again, I just opened that for enrollment last week. So if anyone is interested in or thinks they might use some more support in stress management, the 6-week program is really great. It walks you through everything. I teach you all about stress and what it is, coping and what coping looks like, and all the complexities of how we respond to stress. We go over mindset, communication, self-care. You learn actual tools that you can use forever. No one will ever take these things from you. You can take them with you. And there are things like relaxation strategies, exercises, even stretching for people who maybe have limited abilities. I mean, we go over everything in this. So check it out. If you have any questions about it, feel free to let me know. And I'm going to do another Facebook Live on Wednesday. And Wednesday, the topic is my happiness hacks. So I have some hacks and tips and tricks and things that I do to try and stay keeping a positive mood or just being grateful and happy with everything that's going on and reflecting on that. So if you have any tips or tricks or any insights, anything you'd like to share, we can all learn from each other. Feel free to comment on this. I, again, highly encourage you to do that because I learned so much from you all too. And I'm going to go ahead and sign off. And again, if you just joined this and you're not sure who I am or what I'm talking about, this is going to be available for replay. I'm Amanda Pratt, licensed clinical social worker and certified professional life coach with Imagine Life Therapy. And I specialize in working with and supporting people with chronic illness. And because I also have multiple chronic illnesses, so I really kind of identify with this experience. So I will talk to you all later. Happy Monday, and I hope you have a great rest of your week. And I will see you all on Wednesday.